Alright, boys and girls, the first thing you need to do is use your railroad tracks, which is 2 paint stirrers taped together to get about 1/4 of an inch, to roll out your clay. The rolling pin is like my train, so this needs to stay on the tracks. If you take these away, you might go too thin or it might get uneven. So this is the easiest way to get a slab of clay even. So use your railroad tracks to roll this out. Next, choose which fish stencil you would like to use. I'm going to try this one. Jackson's going to try the angelfish. And you can use a knife. This is a fettling knife. You could use a plastic knife, just be careful because it might break. And start carving around the outside of your fish. Make sure your cut goes all the way down to the canvas or newspaper or whatever you have underneath. The wooden sticks actually also work really well. You finish tracing and cutting all the way through around. Make a couple of cuts and carefully pull away the excess clay. Set this to the side because you will need this later. Then gently remove the stencil and you have your fish shape. Take just your fingertip and dip it in a little bit of water to go around and smooth out your edges. If they look jagged now, they'll look jagged later as well. Frequently check to make sure that my clayfish is not sticking to the newspaper or to the plastic tablecloth or whatever you have underneath. If a little bit of newspaper sticks, that's fine. It will burn off in the kiln. Then take your tool and go ahead and guess and carefully either press down or gently draw where you think the fins might be, which usually follows the body of the fish. And next the fun part begins. You can do additions or you can add textures to show things.
I'm making a fish.
Markers, pencils, even Legos add all kinds of really cool textures to the fish's body. So for the eye, I'm going to take a marker, press with one side, and it makes a perfect little fish eye. I'm going to take a smaller marker, take the end to add the pupil for the fish. Please remember not to press too hard. If you press too hard, it will go all the way through your fish. Pressing down instead of etching or carving a lot of lines prevents what I call the little eye boogers from showing up too much in your art. The edge of markers work really cool for a pattern that looks like scales. If you want to test a texture before you add it onto your fish, please do. That's what you could use some of your extra clay for. Practice the texture there. This is the Lego brick that makes really cool dots. Try some different things and different markers from around your house to see what they do. Options for finishing up your fish. Jackson took his angelfish here, and if you use a straw or a pencil, but straws are really great, you could put a hole in the top so that this could be hung on the wall. Just double check and make sure that there's no clay stuck in the hole for when it's going to get fired. Another option, if you want it to be a bowl shape, if you have a really round one, is to have to find a bowl that's the shape you want. But to prevent the fish from sticking to the bowl, you'll need to add a layer of newspaper or paper towel and then press it down into the bowl. And then as it dries, it will keep that shape. The last option is to make some coils to add to the back. So you can take some of your clay, some of your extras, that's why you saved this, and you can start to roll it into a coil. A coil is like a snake. So when you create a coil, you need to keep your fingertips going at the same time and roll out 1 or 2 snakes. Then I have my coil. I'm going to connect it to make an oval shape. Like if this was going to be a dish or a soap dish. Just a reminder, if for some reason you do have to ball up this clay, you need to re-wedge it to get out any air bubbles before you're done. So wedging the clay looks a lot like kneading dough, where you take it, press it with the palms, press it with the palms, press it with your palms. If it starts to get dry, you can always add a little bit of water, but just be careful not to add too much or it will simply get slimy. Coils, and I need to add this one on here. And what you're going to do is see where they're going to go, and you need to do what I call the 3 S's, which are super important. Score or scratch, slip, and seal. The best tool for this, believe it or not, is a fork. And I scratch both sides of what I'm going to put down. So this is the scoring or the scratching. The 3 S's. Slip is adding a little bit of water, not too much. Never dip anything in the clay. You don't want it to be slimy. Add it on there. A lot of clay artists collect what they call slipped, which is really slimy clay. And then seal it on there. Press it on there so that if you wiggle it, it's going to stay and it's not going to come off. Or take one of these tools and go around and press the edges of the clay to make sure that it's connected in there. Now that I have the coil attached, I'm going to carefully flip my fish over, and now gently, try not to mess up my textures, press down the inside of the fish. And this relieves an indented area, so it can be a little fish dish for you. It could be a soap dish where you could put some little soaps or some hand soap. If something is laying down too much that you want to be picked up, I take a piece of newspaper or paper and I roll it up, and then I just lay it underneath of that while it dries. So that will keep those areas up. And then last minute touch-ups, if you need to take your finger, stick it in the water, or just use your finger and smooth any of the rough areas. Do that now. If you can see it now, you'll see it after it's been fired when it comes out of the kiln. This is Angel Fish. He used a cookie cutter and he cut all the way through. If you have a really tiny one, that would be perfect for that. And again, he put a hole on the top of his. You can see it on that top fin so that his can be hung from the wall.